Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of the Wings podcast. On this show, we will be meeting Dr.Ameya Kagali. Ameya, whom I call him fondly Ameya because I've been knowing him for many, many years. Ameya is a medical doctor by education and practice. He served the Indian Armed Forces in the insurgency-prone areas in India's northeast region, with an armed gun in one hand as a soldier and with a medical gear in another hand as a doctor. He has served on the borders between Israel and Lebanon in setting up medical health camps. Also, as a professional expert in sports science and medicine, his achievements include helping India win its highest tally of medals ever at the recently held Tokyo 2020 Paralympics. Hi, Ameya. Welcome to this show.
Good evening, Uncle. Thank you so much for having me on this show.
So, Ameya, tell me, how does it feel coming on this show, and what do you think about the Wings podcast idea?
Oh, I think it's great to be on something like this. I've just heard podcasts, and now actually to be on one, it's a little. I'm a little nervous, but I think knowing you, I am sure you'll make me feel comfortable.
No. I mean, we had some amazing moments. We recently met for dinner at our place with you and your family. What a wonderful evening we had together.
Yeah.
And when I heard what you have been doing lately, I mean, I said, on the Wings podcast, we have to have you the first guest. And I'm so excited to meet you in a very different role, in a very different avatar. So thank you
Same here.
Thank you for being here for us. So Ameya, I think
absolutely the pleasure is on mine.
Oh yes, same here. So Ameya, I mean, you spoke so passionately when we met recently about the amazing stuff you did with the Indian Paralympics team in the Tokyo 2020 event. So why don't we begin there in terms of what you've just come back from?
Sure. I mean, it was a very surreal experience. And the funny part about sport is that many things are, judged by the result. And the results were very overwhelming. I mean, all of 19 in the Paralympic event, which is like unheard of. In that, we have about 5 gold medals, couple of world records being smashed, and seeing the national anthem being played 5 times in a single Olympic event, in a Paralympic event, was just amazing. And just to be a part of it, to be part of the whole contingent it was a real privilege for me. And just as and when, there was a lot of hard work involved, and especially with the para athletes, they are, I would call them athletes with a lot of ability and disability, which go hand in hand, and that makes it all the more satisfying when they just reach a world stage event. They represent India, and very few people know. They might have heard of the Olympics, but Paralympics generally takes place about a couple of weeks after the Olympics, and this was the highest contingent of 54 athletes, and it was for all to see. I mean, roughly 1 out of every 3 athletes, went on to win a medal, which was like just a tremendous achievement as a nation.
I mean, awesome. I think you were the chief team physician for the event, right?
Yeah.
For the Indian contingent. So just a quick one there. The quick one there, Ameya. So when you were preparing to go to Tokyo, what was the outcome you had in mind, and how did you feel, getting the outcome that you actually got?
Honestly, like now I'm a sports physician and a scientist posted in Bangalore, and I work with a lot of athletes. So initially I was drafted in to work with the senior men and women hockey team, which also did exceedingly well and created history. But then due to some administrative reasons, I just couldn't accompany the team to Tokyo. But just 3 weeks later, I was having a chat with the head coach of the para athletics team, and then he got me on board, and courtesy COVID and all the other challenges, so I was taken on board, and I was honored to be a chief team physician with the Paralympians. So it just as I said, it was very overwhelming. And the best part about it was that I didn't have time to prepare, which in a way was a good thing, which didn't let me overthink too much. I
Okay.
just went into my, reading, and it's a different challenge because they already have certain medical issues which need to be the prime focus, and we have to add an element of sporting training to find a way around their medical issues. So just to give you a brief, like unlike the Olympics, the Paralympics might have multiple events in the same category. So if there's a 100-meter race in Olympics, that there's just 100-meter. But in Paralympics, we classify the people with disability based on their disability.
Okay.
So it is classified in track and field. So then you might have heard in category T52 or T53 and T54.
Okay.
So this was my prime area of focus and study to dig deep into the categories my athletes are performing, are participating in, and then work around like how do I go about them to keep them in the prime health and prime fitness, although they've been training and stuff. But in competition, you have different challenges, especially when it was Japan, the peak of pandemic. And if there's one country to pull it off at this level, I mean, hats off to Japan. The way they hosted not just India, but over, I think, 200 odd countries. They created a very secure environment where not once did we feel that, oh, we might get exposed here and there. The protocols were so well set. The athletes were so well behaved. And that all in all, it made my job very easy from a COVID perspective. We had a couple of unfortunate injuries and illnesses, but I thought of sport. You see the ratio and proportion of those um, who didn't take part in the competition or who had to leave the competition midway. It's in acceptable proportions. The way from a very scientific perspective.
But tell me, Ameya, this amazing results that you were very much a part of in the country achieving as the chief team physician. I mean, where did this all start? I mean, this whole idea of becoming a doctor, and love to hear that part. If we can go back in time a little bit, were you always wanting to be a doctor?
Yeah, I mean, I might feel a bit old now, but because I'll be talking in decades maybe. But yeah, ever since I was in, say, maybe the 7th or 8th standard, my education has been done in Pune. So in St. Vincent's. So in 7th or 8th, I just spoke to mom and said, I think, looking at my parents are doctors. So then they were the prime source of inspiration. So I just took a call here in maybe 8th standard that yes, if I have to do anything, if I have to graduate in a particular stream, it's got to be MBBS, and I don't think it will be anything else. And from there on, I just stuck to the goal, and there was more than enough encouragement, from at home and guidance, which is I think much more important while choosing any profession. And
Yes.
when you're getting the guidance from the best, then why not? So that's how my journey started, where I told you, let's become a doctor first and then see. But before that, also, even during my schooling days, I loved the playground. It was like an addiction for me. I had to just play any and every sport. And the school also encouraged sporting activities a lot. So that's where the doctor part of it came by, I guess.
Yeah. And this is
And
interesting. Most people who end up being a doctor, they kind of go into a specialization with an MD and then get into practice. But you chose the armed forces, a very different route. And how and when and why did that happen to you?
yeah, that I would like to give the credit to the city of Pune.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty fed up of it, however nice it is.
Okay.
So, it's a beautiful city. I just apologies to all my listeners from Pune. So it was 25 years there. I mean, although I've been born in Bangalore, but all my education has been done in Pune. So the prime goal was to actually get out of Pune and explore various cities, or where the only two cities I had seen up until the age of 24, 25 was just Pune and Bangalore. I mean, hardly maybe Mumbai in the midst of things. But that was where the trigger started, that let's find options elsewhere. And also, I had a very close mate of mine who had just finished his training in the National Defense Academy in Pune, and he was commissioned officer. And unfortunately, he was shot while serving with the on foreign territories. Uh, in I think it was South Sudan. Yeah, South Sudan. So that was the time he was shot, and we were all on tenterhooks here back in India, not knowing what's happening and all that. So he was flown back, treated in Delhi, and then he was sent on a sick leave to rest and recuperate in Pune. And I used to go like to visit him and sometimes to dress him up and all that. So just casually he mentioned, like your if and those are the days where you prepare for your the dreaded postgraduate entrance exam, where as you said, most doctors go for the MD and MS and pick up a specialization. So I mean, but many don't know. I think now many know that there's a neat postgrad to crack. It's like a mountain to overcome. And I was in the cribbing and thing phase, and here I was sitting cribbing in front of a guy who's got shot. I mean, it was a bit ridiculous now looking back.
And
But
which,
he advised me, like, why not you become, you join the armed forces. Like I know we both have been together since the first standard. So why not give it a try? I ridiculed that idea again. I'm like, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you've just been shot, and then you're advising me to join the same organization as yours. It was like, first of all, my mom would say no.
okay.
But then, yeah, it was just that. Then, on a more serious note, I gave him a call again at night. I'm like, is it really true that I can join as a civilian? Like, yeah, why not? I'll send you a few links here and there, and might as well just go through it. So that night, I just sat up instead of studying. I went through various websites and the government websites of what is the intake and all that, and my curiosity grew as to, okay, I had never considered this field. I have nobody who has served in the army from either my mom's side or my dad's side. I'm like, let's just what's the harm in gathering some information,
Mhm.
and whether I join it or not was still a very long haul.
Okay.
So then just one thing led to another, and I was guided a lot by my seniors. So the professors and HODs in my college were all ex-army, so they were a huge influence. I should just see how they walk, they talk, they dress up, the shoes, the time, the typical military lingo. So
Uh-huh.
that kind of attracted me. I went and just walked up to mom and just told her that I think I might consider joining the forces.
Okay.
It was a strict no. She just walked off, and first she thought I was joking, so she laughed it off. Then
Okay.
second time I told her, she got angry. She again walked off.
Okay.
Then third time when I went with some data and some reasoning and all that, that is the time she at least heard me out. Okay,
Okay.
this is there. And but then again, the counter question was that what if you could just get shot? And I had no answers for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it just came. All things came around. Still, dad was a bit hesitant. So all the army form filling and after the interview and all that, I could just sense that disinterest. Generally, these are the people when there's any form to be filled, they go like crazy. I mean, it has to be meticulous. It has to be to the point. If it's block letter, it's block letter, and so on and so forth. But in this form, they had zero interest.
Okay. No, I mean, I know your parents well. I mean, they are my own,
So I just
close
went up there, and one of the more,
yeah.
So
So, it's actually,
and
you are right. I mean, a lot of credit, does go to your parents, since I know them so well that, they are extremely reputed and well-respected doctors in Pune. And letting you not join them, but instead join the Indian Army was, an amazing, decision that they took. I mean, but which year was that, Ameya, when you joined AFMC?
this was in 2013 when I took the call,
Okay.
and so just there was I mean, parents could be convinced, and the form filling could be done, but the major glitch in my way was my body fat. I
Well, what
was
happened to
close
that?
to, I was way overweight. I mean, in the garb of studying, I
Okay.
was just eating and a lot of soft drinks and a pathetic diet, which exactly we tell people not to do now. So
Okay.
I was all into that. I was nearly 95, 96 kilos. And obviously, I mean, no form or no father could help me join that time. So, I mean, that was a bigger challenge. So I took it as a physical challenge, a bit of a mental challenge.
Okay.
Then, to speak to people, like by I mean, from where I can get guidance as to how to do this, how to come around things. because see, this I'm entering a private practice and working in government hospitals like right since birth.
Yes.
But this was something completely new.
Correct.
And somewhere there was an inner voice. And then I went to AFMC a couple of times. We used to go for the basketball competitions. I used to see dogs also in uniform there.
Okay.
And I'll be like, so yeah. So that day, more than anything, it got to me was to me wear the uniform. I'm like, I won't look all that bad.
No,
And generally in uniform, very few people, are not able to pull it off, I would say. And that's all credit to the uniform. So once that got into my mind, it was very difficult to, uproot that kind of an idea. And it got so well ingrained in me that it's this or nothing. Like that's where, where I would like to just state, like, people always tell, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But in my case, I think this thing just worked. I put all my eggs, chicken, mutton, everything, whatever you call it, I put in that basket. So if that basket doesn't work, I don't know where I'll be.
So there was no plan B, is it?
No. There was absolutely no plan B. It was just one capital A. That's it. That's the army.
Yeah, I mean, I know somewhere I had read that if you want to make your plan A work, never have a plan B, as they say.
Oh yeah. I mean, pretty much.
And you were telling me this whole posting of yours in the Northeast, and you used a very interesting phrase, baptism by fire. What was that?
Yeah. So when, as a young captain, when we were commissioned as doctors, many things that will be posted to just hospitals and stuff. And like, yes, majority we are posted in hospitals. It's just a brief so that we get a bit of a idea as to how a military doctor should work and conduct himself or herself. And thereafter, we have our training in one of the centers, the Army Medical Corps centers in a certain part of India. And then we have the field posting. So currently, the field posting is the northeastern part or the northern, the J&K sector. And my first field tenure.
Where were you exactly posted there then?
I was in all states in the Northeast, be it the India-Myanmar border, the Indo-China border, and all the beautiful states of Northeast of Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Arunachal, and way the far eastern parts of Assam. So these were the it's a very intriguing place. They are so beautiful, unexplored, and sadly, not many people dwelling in central India have much idea about those states. But it was such a lovely experience. And being a doctor, we run certain health camps there also, and that's the only way we get to interact with the locals there. And they're just amazing people, I mean, if you let a helping hand, they will do whatever it takes to make you feel comfortable in the land.
So as a doctor in the army, I mean, apart from the medical gear that you had to carry, did you ever have to carry a gun or ammunition with you? And did you get to?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, I would say. I mean, that because talking arms is never a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we get attached with a few infantry units where we provide medical care for them when we had to go for a recce or any op, or just to sanitize a particular area. And in the jungles, and it's not just an attack from anywhere. It could be just maybe wild animals, although it's very far less, they're very rare, but still we used to have these treks and to earmark places there that we joined some of the units which I was accompanying. We had to walk a lot. There's no motorable terrain in some parts of the Northeast, and especially where we go, there's like the army goes, there's not much of like hardcore civilization or any construction there. And so, yeah, I mean, like I did what the infantryans also would do, like carry some 20 kilos on my back and with a rifle by myself, and be it rain, and a lot of rain for that matter, a lot of rain.
Yes.
And just, tread through. And the best part was that you get inspiration from the boys. They look at you that, here's a dog, who's willing to come for us and push the envelope and take care of us. And just the fact that I am there with them gives them a lot of courage. It's actually, you should actually, see it to believe it. Like I might say words like courage, motivation. it's sometimes it gets lost into being very superficial.
Yeah.
But when you're serving with the boys, like, I mean, in tough times, in real tough times, it makes a huge difference. So
So,
yeah, I mean, I've done.
so this is something very interesting, because you start as a medical doctor, and instead of going the traditional route of MD and civilian doctor practice, you end up being in the armed forces, and of all places, you end up being in the most troubled regions of the country. And then you make a very interesting transition into something called sports medicine. Now, where did that come from? And I think you went to New Zealand to get that bit of skills.
Actually, in between, after the Northeast, I had the game changer there was my posting in Bangalore, and that is where there's a huge sporting center there where I could work with the Army Services cricket teams, the riding equestrian teams, and quite a few sporting teams where I was seen to just tell me to go and accompany the teams. I'll be like just standing there and knowing and not knowing what to do. But as and when I was on the ground, that's when I was reconnected with my romance of my playing days from school. That okay, here there are athletes in front of me, and okay, I'm a doctor. I'm like, let's amalgamate the two. And sports medicine is even back then and still is a very nascent branch in the field in India. So I mean, I started my lookout for like, okay, now what next? Because you are speaking by now, you might have realized you are speaking to a restless soul.
Yes,
So
undoubtedly.
it's like
and an adventurer who ceases to stop.
yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, so being with teams and being in that mentality, and I think like an athlete first.
Yeah.
So then just giving my expertise and getting the professional environment, I started my research for study places in India. Although there are a few medical colleges which offer the postgrad degree, I wasn't too convinced whether I want to do it here. So that's when my research started. And just a year there, I'd gone for a holiday in 2018 to Gold Coast. That's where the Commonwealth Games were held that year. And the whole environment, I'm like, wow, I can be in this environment. It might be a bit too late for me to take up, to become a professional athlete, but what best I can do in my capacity. So that's where my research started. I started hunting countries, UK, US, Australia, New Zealand, and just doing the boring research work like any other person who wants to go abroad does. I did that. So again, then I in between I gave my parents another shock though when I just told them that, just the way I told them that I want to join, I just slipped it that now I want to leave. And that's when I like,
maybe for your parents, the word Ameya and surprises seems to be synonymous, eh?
I mean, you should get them on a podcast, and you may put that question to them there.
Love to have them, and maybe I'll ask them this question. But then, interesting, you do this, formal certification in sports medicine in New Zealand, and then you come back to the country and serve for the country as a physician in the Sports Authority of India. I mean, you had an option from New Zealand to probably go and be a sports sort of medicine trainer in any part of the world. Why back to the country?
Yeah. In fact, actually, when you say it out loud, and when I look at it in hindsight, I can actually corroborate things, and I can play along. But actually, to be very honest with you, nothing of this sort was planned.
Okay.
I was with an open mind when I left Indian shores, that okay, New Zealand is the country right now, and I truly believe my parents have given me the privilege and the freedom to actually live in the moment. So I don't need to plan so much ahead. So if it's there, if I stay there, if I stay here, I mean, I was open to both options. So when I started working more and more in New Zealand, I was with the Auckland cricket team, and sometimes I used to see how the Auckland handball, the guys, the two sports which are very close to me. So I used to see them play, and then I'm like, okay. When I spoke to my prof there, I did a brief internship with one of the doctors who has worked with FIFA there, and I got to know that there is so much more to do in India, where it's still so nascent, still so new, and there's so much of data, so much of athletes. We are a huge country, diverse cultures, and we have dearth of talent. So I mean, like, why not just finish this my postgrad in New Zealand and then look for maybe the greedy mind wanted me to do masters, or even I was considering PhD for some time. The initial thought process was to go to another country, maybe UK, and then come back to India or stay there, or like I said, I don't plan much ahead. But the options opened up. I just got in touch when I was in. I took a pit stop in India to meet my parents and come to Bangalore. That's when I approached the regional director in Sports Authority of India, was a fellow serviceman. I approached her. I'm like, this is what I've done. This is what I'd like to do. If you have any vacancy, and here's your man. And he was more than happy to take me on board. And so just one thing led to another. And as I said, once I entered the gates of the Sports Authority of India, we were both the hockey teams were training here in Bangalore, the Indian women hockey team and the men hockey team, a few Olympians and a few Paralympians. And that's where, unfortunately or fortunately, they got stuck with a doctor like me.
Oh, I mean, it has to be fortunate with what you and your contingent ended up winning in the Tokyo event. I mean, so Ameya, tell me, I mean, there is this amazing transitions that you went through, in your, how old are you, if I can ask you now?
I would like to believe I'm 23, but I'm 30. I'm 32.
So, at just such a young age of 32, having done so much, and yet the opportunities are out there in front of you. If you were to ask yourself, in all this, who is really Ameya? I mean, I can see the relentless adventurer, the fearless warrior who never gives up. I can also see a very strong, curious child who is always inquisitive about things. So if we were to look into the mirror and see the person in front, who do you see there?
I think you quite, like, now, since you've asked me this question, it's got me thinking. But the kind of description that you've given, it's pretty much, I mean, it's all, I can't deny any. So yes, I am curious. Yes, I am restless. Yes, I like to take a head-on challenge, and like to do different things. But also, I'd like to improve on so many things. Like, to be honest, I'm ignorant of the other things happening in my life, apart from sport and medicine. So you ask me anything else, and maybe a bit of geography I will understand here and there, but there is so much to do, and so much, like, my only thing is, like, the new lingo is the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And I think that's me. if I have to just describe myself, I just want to be there, and
Absolutely, and there's so much more to kind of achieve going forward. So, briefly, as we are kind of coming to the end of this conversation, as you look to the future, what do you see for yourself? What are your hopes and dreams for yourself, in the near future?
If you talk at a personal level, is to gather as much as knowledge as possible, and to be able to apply it practically on ground, which is pertaining to the culture and pertaining to the athletes I'm dealing with, whatever level, whatever the background. Because no matter how much we read and how much of the degrees we get, if you're not able to communicate the same to our boys and girls, it's of no use. So break that barrier, improve more on communication, not just in cities, but also to the rural side of India. And the biggest learning for me has been that bigger than knowledge, I mean, knowledge, of course, very important, is the bigger than that is collaborations. I mean, we have to network, we have to collaborate, we have to talk. New universities within India, universities abroad, how they function, how we function, what suits our sensibilities. Basically, just to have a nice, healthy sporting culture in our country, and to see it from going strength to strength, and people talking more about sport in India, and how it is like a torchbearer for the others to follow. So I think that's one of the reasons. That's one of the things which I'm really passionate about. And of course, at some point of time, I would love to go to a medical college and go into the teaching profession.
I mean, I
have some time for that.
I wouldn't be surprised if you are one hell of a popular professor on the campus. building the next generation. So amazing, Ameya. So, what an amazing ride. And I think with people like you, I think country and sports in the country is in safe hands, I would say. And I wish you good luck. And all I can say is, may the force be with you in every step of the way.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and those for those kind words and encouragement and blessings. I mean, it's really nice. Although I have known you for a long time, and then now just has come and you inviting me on this podcast. It's really feels special. And again, I don't have enough words to thank you in different ways. So I'll just say thank you.
No, pleasure is entirely mine. And I think in a few weeks I am likely to be in Bangalore. I'll definitely ping you, and let's meet for a dinner when I'm in Bangalore next. So thank you once again for being on the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all the listeners. I hope I haven't bored you all too much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. Thank you, Ameya. Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host Milind Agnihotri signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.